Hello everybody, welcome, this is Devitt1. I'm back with another video. Here we go, guys. This is the new wrestling news. I've been talking about this in my last podcast, and I think I've sort of hyped this up. I found about this on Sunday, and it is a documentary that I've always wanted to see. Fergal Devitt, or Finn Balor as he now called in NXT. I'm doing my NXT reviews, and I've been talking about him over the last time. If you want to know, I'm pretty excited. You can hear my voice. So I just recently, 7 minutes ago, just finished this documentary. It was on live on RT2, and you can check it on the RT player, so I guess I'll leave links to that below and you can go check that out. But here, guys, I just want to talk about this. As I just said there, I'm fresh after watching this. Literally just stopped watching it. It was on for an hour, and I'm going to go and talk into the details of what happened in this documentary. So it was called Smack 'em Up Rally Bites documentary, the story of Fergal Devitt. And I looked at the description of this. I got pretty intrigued. It was basically based back when Fergal Devitt just signed to WWE, making his transition from his Japanese wrestling days, and we just get to go back and look at the transition and how he feels at the moment. So the documentary sort of begins. We get to look at Fergal Devitt and how he got involved in the wrestling experience, and I can see that he had a really sort of ordinary life before this. He grew up in Bray, County Wicklow, Ireland, and he sort of just started out, as your usual teenager, interested in wrestling. He was born back in 1980, I think, or 1984, around that time. So he's around, 34 right now. And he basically started out just interested in wrestling. Back in the heyday, sort of around that time, the 90s, and I guess he started out as most people do. Then at the age of around, I'm not sure, well anyway, around this sort of age, he began to develop, okay, I can get involved in this, and he tells us about how around 16 years of age, after he did exams, he went straight over and did wrestling. There is a lot of sort of dream in all of us to do this sort of thing. And he went out and did it. So it was sort of, that's how he started out. It was quite simple. He wanted to do it, and he did it. He trained in his wrestling ring, and he went straight out over to England, where he started to go to a wrestling school, and, they sort of taught him the basics, everything a wrestling school should teach him. So over in England, it was quite hyped up, and they had a sort of big fan base around that area that I was going to. Next, he delves into, we get some good visuals of videos of him in ICW, or Intense Championship Wrestling. It begins with I, and I'm not sure what it is. ICW, anyway. So this is in Glasgow, and we get to go zoom forward into when he's sort of doing these shows in Glasgow, after he got big in Japan. So we get to see him in that sort of environment, and he feels like it's a really small place, but he's happy to be there. He's kind of friendly with everyone there, and it's a normal day in the life for him. We go back in time. He was wrestling in England, of course, and we see him training in Ireland. He also went over back and forth between those two countries, and he was sort of just really unexperienced, I guess, in a bigger stage of life in wrestling, but he was getting the basics, and that were really important for him. He was building his physique up from being skinny to being one of the most impressive looking wrestlers of today's sort of period of time, and they can't stress it enough, really. This guy is just immensely looking, and his friends all tell him this, and you can tell he's such an eye catcher, and you can just see that he would make it big in any wrestling company. Anyway, so he obviously tells us about how he went over to Japan, the big move, and it documents this quite well. I thought it was very good that he was really young and inexperienced back then, but he was quite confident in doing this, and I guess it's just brilliant to see him make a move like that. And he went right over there. It was all big and bright lights, obviously moving from a little boy in a little known town in Bray, Ireland, and going from England to a gigantic stage. Japan, one of the biggest wrestling countries in the world, for professional wrestling, and here he is in the dingy old rings of Japan, and he felt like, yeah, he was going to earn what he wanted to. And of course he worked sort of with the other guys. He was like one of the first European people over there in 20 years. He documented they were all Japanese people there, so he worked as sort of an intern guy there, and it's very interesting indeed. I thought it was quite funny to see how he's just like working there as the lowly old guy. But yeah, he got to work in all the big stages over there, and you know, you got your little Japanese backyard, sort of smaller companies like we do have here in America. So it's kind of similar to America in a sort of way, where there's a really big stage, it's national television, and so everybody in the whole country is watching it. Really, a lot of people are. So in that sort of similarity draws to America. So we get to see another few matches, and which is pretty cool. From going from that different crowd back over in Scotland to here we are in Japan, and he gets to face as Japanese experienced wrestlers in a totally different environment, in gigantic arenas and stuff like that. And he documents he was here for a few years in Ireland, a few more years in England, built up that sort of experience there. Spent over 8 years in Ireland and England combined. It was pretty amazing. I didn't know how long he was doing this, but he's obviously been doing it so long, training 3 hours a day, working on all his physique and cardiovascular system. And he also documented, which I thought was really interesting, how all wrestlers talk about it, but it's the injuries that are so fatal, that can be so fatal, and that how you're dealing with it every night. It's not like a boxer where you practice and practice and practice to get your big fight. You're fighting every night, and every night after that, and your schedule is completely 24/7. So you gotta watch out for these injuries. And this guy, Devitt, makes a great comment about how you are in the adrenaline rush going through the fight, and so you're not thinking about when you're there, you don't think about the consequences of any moves or any injuries that can be caused. The injuries are caused, but it's not there and then, it's the next day when you face the problem. Anyway, he's over here in Japan, and he gets to face up in big crowds, and so after all that experience in Ireland, England, the United Kingdom, British Isles, all that European experience, comes over here and fits in beautifully in the Japanese style, I think. So he's just such a neat character, and they were accepted over there in Japan. So he got to work there, he's all the face paint on, all the body art, and worked 7 years there until the present day, where he's making that big move. So absolutely wonderful. I just think that it worked really well. In the documentary, him commenting, moving over to matches, and then sort of just documenting the way it moved. We see his life outside of the wrestling ring, sort of in Japan, as he worked that crazy schedule, as a lot of wrestlers do. His friends there, who were Europeans who moved over, Americans who moved over, and all these sort of other types of people who moved over in Japan and are still working there today. And you don't really see these other guys, but you do. But they document how, oh my god, it's so crazy. It's like you're facing such big crowds and completely different to anywhere else really in the world. And these guys are just credited to them. And then we see the formation of the Bullet Club. And obviously I've heard about this before, it's quite famous. I know a YouTuber who has little symbols from the Bullet Club on his YouTube channel, which is pretty cool. And pretty amazing how much impact they made, really. These sort of American and European cast guys, big guys, impressive body build, and pretty good characters overall, working their way on the other wrestlers. And you can see him with a bunch of different championships in the ring over different montages from Japan, and it sort of skips through really fast, and you can see sort of bits and bits. So it's sort of like a grand overview, not much going into too much depth, but again, I would like to see more Japanese. I mean, if he was over, obviously he's going over to it now, so documentary could be on the rise for a proper one. This one sort of overviewed a little bit of his career, while a new improved Japanese documentary would be really good to see. But anyway, it does go over some bits of the Bullet Club, and bits of his single career against his arch rival from Japan. So a guy he knows that he used to be a tag team partner with, and now he's facing him alongside the Bullet Club, who is a new sort of stable he set up in 2013, and they could do whatever they want. He documents this pretty well, and it's pretty extraordinary to see him just be completely free with what he wants to do. And his whole character is let out. He gets to be his real personality, sort of a different side to his real personality, and they all agree on this, his friends and himself. So, yeah, this comes into it brilliantly with his rivalry with this other guy who he used to be tag team partner with, and how they're going to face each other quite a few times, and their rivalry will come to a pretty epic ending when he's going to end his career in Japan for now. I mean, he is not kind of uncertain what he wants to do, but of course he comes to this big decision that he's going to go over to America, to WWE, which is the big company, of course, which I obviously talk about, and he wants to step his career forward, his body and mind maybe in the stages of the prime of his career, but he needs to keep on moving forward, and I respect him on that decision greatly. And I'm sure people in Japan all respect him, and they all have good, no one really had any heat with him, or I'm surprised they didn't really show that end of things, that people were disagreeing with him or anything. He was pretty much free in his own decisions, so they all looked after him over there pretty well, and he got to do all the feuds he wanted with his nemesis, but they all sort of gone on pretty well, and we didn't see the end with the guy he was on in the feud with, but we got to see the Bullet Club members, and that was pretty interesting. Them out of the ring, and we got to see a lot of that, a lot of him moving around from country to country, pretty crazy, Japan, England, Scotland, and Ireland, and yeah. So he made the big move, which he's going to agree. He finally gets to agree with the WWE to go over to WWE, and this is around 2014, April, May, June, July time. With him finally making a decision in July 2014, agreeing, and all the contract agreed with WWE. So he's a great influence, and just a thing that you can do whatever you want in the WWE. You can do whatever you want in wrestling. You just gotta work really hard for it, and this guy proved it so well. Obviously he took all the mentoring and advice, and he got the experience all up, and he was just a proper mindset to be a wrestler, really. So we go into his final few months of wrestling, and he's getting pretty emotional towards the end. I mean, after his last fight with his feud, you can see all his emotions let out, and it's pretty amazing to see. So we sort of closed to an end in this documentary style thing, and yeah, him meeting with fans and stuff like that. And again, I think this is a beautiful and brilliant documentary to showcase all the sort of outside of ring stuff, as well as different montages and beautifully done cuts into the ring on important matches in his career. And of course the Bullet Club, which kind of highlighted him, and I think was one of the most, or if not the most important thing that he ever did over there in Japan. And it only came about in the last year, so everything is so recent, so caught up, and that way it would be great to come back to it in a few years when, down the line, when it's all into overview, where he can look at his perspective in a proper interview sort of setting, and look at it as well, he's gone over to WWE and see how much an impact he made there. So there it was for the documentary as it comes to a close. So pretty wonderful. Yeah, it gives you a good view on Fergal Devitt so far, or Finn Balor as he now called, how he got the name Prince Devitt. It comes into good few details, and it's completely on the mindset of Prince Devitt, him doing the commentary, and it feels like it's from his perspective, and I think brilliantly done on that behalf. So yeah, I just really enjoyed this one, and I think it was easy to watch. It wasn't like any sort of really in-depth stuff, but I think it was good on behalf that it showed him on a big move in his career, and we see this in sort of like Bret Hart wrestling with Shadows, so I can compare it to those things. Maybe not the most wrestling-centric documentary I've ever seen, but it wanted to appeal to a bigger crowd. So maybe you might not enjoy this as much as you do for other documentaries. But again, I think it appeals to a good mass audience, and for this reason, it is a very good all-round documentary. And I think that it's sort of a non-biased view, and it's not him being too annoying, you know. He's just being really nice, and of course I really enjoyed this. So that's been it from me, guys. I'd like to talk about the Finn Balor, or sorry, Prince Devitt, Fergal Devitt, whatever you want to call him, news. It's great to see him get such a showcase, and at the end of the documentary it also says that this guy could be one of the biggest wrestlers in the future of the WWE. So I feel like WWE is in safe hands with this guy, Fergal Devitt, Prince Devitt, Finn Balor as he's now called. I'm going to call him Finn Balor from now on, guys, unless he wants to change that up. So thank you guys so much. This has been TVish1 reviewing this documentary, Reality Bites, Smack 'em Up from Fergal Devitt's point of view. It's been so much fun doing this review. Just a quick sort of, if you wanted, comment below. I mean, I made this straight away, just my reaction in general and review. And if you have any different opinions on this episode, definitely comment below. Favorite and share, and of course hit that subscribe button below. Hope you enjoy this one, guys. More wrestling news will be coming soon on my TV shows, and Christmas stuff coming up. So thank you guys so much. See you guys, and thank you very much for watching. As been TVish1, of course, and enjoy. See you next time.